Welcome to another edition of the Inspired Stories podcast, where leaders share their experiences so we can learn from their successes and be inspired by how they've overcome adversity. My name is Anthony Codispoti, and today's guest is Diane Hagerty, an IRS enrolled agent and the owner of Grassroots Taxes in Springdale, Arkansas. Diane and her team are dedicated to helping individuals and small businesses navigate tax rules without fear. Grassroots Taxes offers services like tax preparation, bookkeeping, payroll management, and business formation guidance. They also share free educational resources through a blog and YouTube channel, focusing on practical tips for everyday financial challenges. Her firm is recognized throughout the region for its friendly, hands-on approach, encouraging clients to ask questions and stay informed. Diane's background includes hosting local workshops, representing taxpayers before the IRS, and helping entrepreneurs build more sustainable foundations for their businesses. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, today's episode is brought to you by my company, Add Back Benefits Agency, where we offer very specific and unique employee benefits that are both great for your team and fiscally optimized for your bottom line. Imagine being able to give your employees free access to doctors, therapists, and prescription medications. And here's the fun part. The program actually puts more money into your employees' pockets. And the companies too. One recent client was able to increase net profits by $900 per employee per year. Results vary for each company, and some organizations may not be eligible. To find out if your company qualifies, contact us today at addbackbenefits.com. All right, back to our guest today, the owner of Grassroots Taxes, Diane Hagerty. Thanks for making the time to share your story today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Diane, I understand you've got a weird origin story of how you got into the accounting field. I'm on the edge of my seat. What is that?
Oh, well, when I was a kid, teenager, I was a musician. I played music. I was going to devote my life to music. I would write music. I was in tried to do Broadway and tried to do a bunch of other stuff, played music, wrote music. If it didn't have to do with music, I didn't care. So school was kind of, other than band and choir, school was just not my thing. So here I am, being lazy, not doing my stuff in the summer. I go back to school day before school starts, pick up my books, pick up my classes because I had failed to do that. And I was going to Catholic school that year. And there was this old nun. And I went in and I was like, so I want to take these classes. And she's like, well, your first period class isn't available. It's full. And I was like, all right, well, how about this one? And she's like, it's full. You had all summer to pick out your classes. The only thing that's open first period is accounting. That's what you're taking. Here's your books. Next. And I was like, accounting. I didn't even know what accounting was. Like I was just
that was so far outside the realm of what you were interested in. I was just
a partying kid with a guitar, So I was like, are you serious? A business class? I'm a musician. Are you serious? So I was like, that's it. I got plenty of credits to graduate. I just won't go. Like I just won't pass the class. Like I can fail. It doesn't matter. I don't need the credits to graduate. I got plenty of credits. I just have to put in my time, right? So I tried to fail this class, and I tried so hard to fail this class, and I got like hundreds and 98s on like every assignment. I could not fail this class if I tried. It just everybody else is failing, and I'm like, this class is so easy.
Sorry to interrupt. So when you say you tried to fail, you just weren't studying. You weren't putting in any effort.
I did not care.
But it was just coming easy to you. Okay.
It just came so easy to me. And then it was like something else, somebody was like, oh, I keep bouncing checks. And I was like, well, you balance your checkbook? And they're like, how do you do that? And I'm like, do y'all people know anything? Here I am like, 18, 19 years old and, really didn't care about anything. And I was not the most entrepreneurial kid, and it just, here I am, like always balancing people's checkbooks and reading letters and understanding stuff for people and explaining stuff to people. And it just kind of came naturally. And then I met my spouse of 14 years. We haven't been together for like 20, but, and he was very entrepreneurial, but he wasn't very good with numbers. So, I did the books. He made the money, and that's the way it worked for a long time. So that's how I got into accounting. And it was all because a nun had no other classes to give me because I was too lazy to pick out the classes I wanted when I had time and waited till the day before school started.
Isn't it funny how doors open for us sometimes because other ones closed? So
I never
how did you
would've
go
known.
from there? How did you go from there doing the accounting and the bookkeeping for the business with your husband to actually starting your own accounting firm?
That's because I got divorced. The marriage didn't work out. We grew in very different directions, became very different people. And so I went off on my own, and the everything that I learned and everything that I did for our businesses, I figured I could do that for other people. That would be easy. And that's what I started doing. I started doing bookkeeping, accounting, and eventually got my EA, finished my college degree because I hadn't done that for several reasons. And over the past 30 years, I've, really built it all up again,
So
now
explain
I'm
to
kind
us
of a big deal, I think.
what is an EA? What does that
An
allow
EA?
you to do?
An
How do you
enrolled
get
agent.
that
It is, you take a test. Basically, it's a 3-day test. It's really difficult. But the IRS, test your knowledge on taxes, on pretty much every area of taxes, business, representation, personal taxes, and the questions are from all over the board. You don't know what you're going to get. But it's a 3-day test. And if you pass, you're an enrolled agent. You have enough knowledge in taxes that you can represent people before the IRS. So basically, and most states accept that too. So if you're having tax problems, you want to go to an EA.
Tax problems specifically.
Yeah.
That's
So
what
I'm
the
not,
EA
I'm not a
is useful for.
CPA. I don't do accounting. I don't do, like corporate audits or audits for, your licensure. I don't sign off on how much money you made for public accounting. Like I don't do public accounting. I don't do things that are for other people. I do stuff that the government's going to see. I do accounting that reflects back that the government's going to approve.
So explain a little bit more about that. What does that mean? So I'm one of your clients and I hire you to do what probably?
I do everything else, any accountant could do. I mean, I have a degree in accounting and small business management. I could do bookkeeping and payroll and sales tax and, all the other things that, any accountant could do. However, the real dividing line is CPAs are licensed by the state. They're an association. They kind of judge each other. They're peer reviewed. They judge each other's work, similar to doctors, engineers. They hold the standards high for their what they do. Sorry, I'm just kind of at a loss for the right word I'm looking for.
And so who's going to do my taxes? Who's going to actually prepare my taxes to file? Is that
Are
CPA?
you asking me
Is
if
that
a
an
CPA
EA?
or an EA? Both do taxes all the time.
Both can do that.
Sure,
Okay.
Anybody can do a tax return. The tax industry is pretty much unregulated. You can choose to get education, and you can choose to get, some kind of credentials through the IRS, but there's really no standards of credentials to prepare a tax return. I mean, anybody can go to work at one of the big box tax return places and take their class and start being a tax return preparer. The IRS does not regulate who can prepare a tax return.
That's interesting. But they do regulate who can represent somebody in front of the IRS when
Absolutely.
there are questions to be answered.
Right. So you have to be either an attorney, a CPA with your state, or an enrolled agent to represent taxpayers in tax issues.
So does being an EA give you some kind of extra access to the IRS that being a CPA at the state level does not?
No, it's exactly the same with the IRS.
The same. Okay.
All right. But I mean, to be a CPA, you don't have to do taxes. I mean, they don't teach you individual tax returns when you go to get a degree in accounting. You learn that by doing it. You learn the basics of taxation and how it works and how the government assesses taxes and what's a graduated tax bracket or, things like, how the taxes are applied and how to figure it out. But, at the end of the day, you learn taxes by doing it.
Yeah.
You know,
So I hear about you representing clients in front of the IRS, and that just kind of makes my skin crawl. Like it feels
yeah,
like that would be a pretty scary encounter. Am I right, or am I being over dramatic here?
you are not being over dramatic. You should be terrified.
Okay.
I have I'm in Arkansas, and I don't want to trash talk Arkansas too much, but everybody else does apparently. Um, but you know, the Department of Finance here, the people that collect the state income tax, state sales tax, payroll taxes, things like that, the State Department of Finance, um, you know, they just will charge you money and send you a letter and say you owe money, and a lot of people don't know why, and they're scared. Do I pay this? And I'm like, didn't I tell you to pay that back in April? And they're like, yeah. I was like, did you save the receipt? You know, like the download code or whatever that shows you paid. Did it come out of your checking account? Well, yeah. I'm like, well, show me where it came out of your checking account and show me your download code and let's send it back with the letter. And they had no idea they already paid it. Why didn't they credit their payment? I don't know. They do it a lot. That happens a lot. People file forms on paper and they're never approved. They're never received. The missing payments is a big one. And then a lot of times they're just like, oh, you're late. We're going to charge you this amount of money. It's like, I filed an extension.
So do you think they
Did you?
intentionally lose these forms and these payments, or is this just poor record
It's just
keeping?
government. It's just government. I mean, they're just overwhelmed with volumes and volumes of information. And, you know, if they get 99% of it right, that's great. But 1% is an awful lot of people when you have millions of people in your state, you know?
So what you're describing there sounds like clerical errors on the part of the government. And while it's concerning, that's not maybe scary. What are some of the scary encounters that you've been through?
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, let's go back to about almost 20 years ago. Wow. About 20 years ago, I had a client contact me just out of the blue, just saw who I was or knew who I was, I don't know. And he's like, I'm having a little bit of a problem. I'm wondering if you could come over here and look at it. I have a lot of vehicles and trucks, and it's like, okay. So it wasn't that far away. It's like 20 miles from here. So I drove over there later that week. And I pulled in, and there's like acres of tractor trailers, and most of them are in various states of disrepair. Like, I don't think any of them were roadworthy, but there was probably 100. I mean, there was just acres of tractor trailers, old beat up trucks that probably didn't run, like flat trailers, like flatbed trailers with like fences around them for like trash, probably 50 of those, like everywhere, just parked everywhere amidst this piles of garbage.
And so what
And
was the issue from a tax perspective?
he was kind of a dump. So I went up there, and there was literally IRS agents, 3 of them, walking around, numbering everything, writing everything down, taking pictures. This was 20 years ago. They didn't have iPhones. They had a camera, right? And they're like taking pictures of the license plates and taking pictures of the VIN numbers of all these trailers. And I was like, who are you? Because I'm about to be his accountant. And they're like, oh, we're with the IRS. And they flash their badges. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be an interesting day.
Explain it for us. Like, why were they so interested in these vehicles that weren't being used?
Well, he apparently had some health issues. He had a very positive, big, growing business using all these trucks. And he was, pretty big deal in the community, I think, provided a lot of jobs, had, millions in sales. I mean, he was a pretty big, small business. And he had some health issues, which required some surgery, and the surgery required some medications afterwards. And it turns out he got addicted to these medications, and well, the business just kind of fell apart, and he kind of stopped paying his taxes. He also stopped making money because any money he made, he would immediately spend on bad.
Yeah. Sounds like a pretty
Bad,
unfortunate
yeah,
situation.
it was very unfortunate. And him and his wife were literally falling apart. I mean, they were mentally falling apart. They didn't know where to go. It was really tragic, and I felt so bad for them that I didn't walk out on them. And I was like, if you're going to pay me, I need a contract, you're going to pay me or I'm just going to start taking stuff, and
So what
it.
were you able to do for them? How could you help them out, Diane?
Turns out the bill that the IRS was sending him was for $898,000. I don't have a copy of it here to show you, but I saved a copy of that and it's hanging on my wall. $898,000 they were trying to get out of him. At the end of the day, since he had gone out of business and not made any money and didn't have any money, I got him out of all of it. He wound up paying $0 to the federal, $0 to the state of that $898,000 bill. Why? Because, I mean, if you don't file your taxes, they make up a number, and he made a lot of money. And since he hadn't made any money in several years, they just assumed he wasn't filing his taxes and making tons of money. Whereas he was really losing a lot of money because he had, lost, all semblance of
and
health.
I've seen this before from a personal perspective. I had a business that, used to pay sales tax, and then the business wound down and it wasn't making income anymore, but they still expected me to file those sales tax returns. And so they just started sending me bills for made up numbers. And so it was the same kind of thing here that, they didn't sort of get the memo that they weren't making any money anymore. So they sent this giant bill to get his attention. Clearly it worked. But you went to work, you did your thing, you waved a magic wand and said, hey, not only are they not making money, they're losing money, so they don't owe any of this. And the problem went away. It
took 3.5 years to solve most of it. But yeah, he was my project for about 3.5 years. But
that's pretty messy.
He did have enough money coming in from selling off the stuff to keep me paid. So I stuck around until we sold the property and paid off everybody, which... it took 3.5 years. I've had a lot of projects like that. So
that's a good example of how dealing with the IRS can be really scary, especially when you don't have experience, for somebody like me or the client that you were describing. Let's take a step back though, Diane, and kind of paint a bigger picture for us on the services that you typically provide for your clients. We know about the IRS engagement. What else is involved there?
Like what else do I do?
Yeah.
Okay. I take a lot of phone calls. I do a lot of free consultations. I probably do 100 a year free consultations. People calling me and just having questions they just don't know. And, that's kind of a lot of what I do is explain stuff to people because they don't know. Like nobody teaches this stuff, which is why I started the videos and the blog and stuff like that. Because where else are you going to learn this stuff? It's like, how do you know you should get an LLC or not? How do I know if I should be running payroll or not? How do I know if it's, should I be charging sales tax? Where do you look this up? There's no place to look this up and know this stuff. And they don't teach it in school very much. At least not applicable to individual states where every state has different rules.
And so what you sort of collected a lot of the common conversations and questions that you get on these free consultations, and you turned them into blog articles and YouTube videos that you can send to people. Say, hey, check this out.
Well, how I really started the YouTube channel was during the pandemic because, they published this one piece of legislation that had, an alphabet soup of stuff. We had the PPP and the ERC and everything had a 3-letter acronym and nobody, well, should I do this one or this one or this one? I'm like, hold on, let me read it all. And I sat down and read through all the legislation and I got a big poster board that was like 3x5 and I write real small and I made all my notes on it. And then I was like, all right, I know what it is. And I had one person call me and then the next person to call me out the same question. And then I'd get 3 emails with the same question. And I'm like, I've got to be able to get this out there to everybody at once. This is ridiculous. I'm wasting days just explaining the same thing over and over. So I had somebody start filming me, in which case it was really difficult because it was a pandemic and I didn't want to be around anybody. So my videos changed from time to time in style because it was different people doing it in different places. But, through the whole pandemic, I was like, this is how it is. This is what this is. This is what this is. Does it work with this? And I just make probably 50 videos just on the pandemic stuff. And then it came and went, and then I got back into it, and I go in phases where I'll make a whole bunch of material and then I don't. But anytime I get a question or like a strange question, I write it down and eventually I'll make a piece of content on it. Because
what's probably the most commonly asked question that you get?
What's this letter mean? Seriously?
How about a more general topic?
I got this letter. I have no idea what it means. I get people send me pictures of letters all the time. It's always something different. I mean, common questions. How do I start a business? I teach a class on that. I get a lot of questions on nonprofits too. I just taught another class on nonprofits. That's on the library's YouTube channel. So
these classes that you teach, they're also online, or some of them in person? Do you charge for them? Are they free? How's this work?
I generally teach classes that are free to attend, and I try to get them filmed and put on, and get the original thing and put it on my YouTube channel, or at least on theirs, or get a link so people can watch my content. Because I get paid to teach. Sometimes I don't. A lot of nonprofits I live right near the university, and there's a whole lot of business startup seed places, entrepreneurial engines for people that are majoring in small business. Like, how do you start a small business? And they have funding from Rockefeller foundations. I don't know, but a lot of them are software developers, stuff like that, they want to scale up, then they want to buy your company. They do this whole scale up, make money, and I don't know. But a lot of, but they also have to deal with everybody that's like, I want to just start a car detailing company, or I want to start a delivery service, or I want to, open a restaurant.
Don't open a restaurant? Why? Because they're not profitable? They're hard to run? What's the deal there?
They're not profitable. Okay. I mean, somebody's got to do it, but it's like, if you're good at cooking, that's great, but you have to be good at running a business to run a restaurant. Yeah. I have a lot of great cooks that lose a lot of money trying to run a restaurant because they know how to cook, but they don't know how to run a business.
So Diane, who's your ideal client? Industry, size, geography? Who's a good fit for you?
That's a really hard question, because when I have people come to me and they have it together, they've got everything on spreadsheets, they got all the facts, they just need this, and this. I'm like, yeah, that's great, but you could have done that yourself. I'm just getting my approval stamp and putting it on there. I didn't do anything for you. And the people that come to me that are just a complete disaster, and they can't figure anything out, they're terrible with numbers, they don't have any receipts, and they have no idea what they're doing. I really enjoy working with those people because I feel like I've made a change in their life. I made a positive impact in their life, and I've got them on the road to, doing things right and not getting in trouble in the future.
So is there a minimum or a maximum size or certain industries that you feel like you specialize in, or is it, hey, from 0 to 100 million or a billion?
Oh, I don't do really big businesses. No, anybody that's really big. Once you start bringing in a couple million a year, you probably need somebody at a desk in an office that works for you, that's your employee, that's keeping track of all this stuff. I'm kind of the training wheels for those, a lot of times, people use me and then they get bigger and I'm like, all right, you need to hire somebody. And like, then we check on the person they hired and make sure they're doing stuff right. And I review them at the end of the year. I have several people that have grown out of me, but I still, complete their tax return. And some people move on to a bigger firm because there's some things I don't offer. Like, like I don't have a whole bunch of partners. It's just me. So I can't have any one client take up too much of my time. I have to deal with everybody else. So, as you grow.
Anything from startup to about 1 to 2 million, and that's sort of the point where they might graduate from you.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. I've had people that made even less money. I mean, it depends on how many transactions you have. I mean, some people have, a zillion transactions, and some people make several million a year and have 50 transactions a month. So, it really depends on how much you have to keep track of, how many employees you have, that kind of thing.
Gotcha. So all this content that you put together, all this advice, whether it's free or paid, that you provide to folks, what is low-hanging fruit that you typically recommend to your clients to help them be more tax efficient?
Like, what's the easiest thing? Like, what would I tell people if I could give one piece of advice? I got a few. So let me start with that. The thing I say the most, the thing that I have on a lot of stuff is make money first. And if I ever finish my book, that's the name of it. Make money first. I have so many people trying to start a small business. And they're like, all right, I need an LLC. And then that LLC needs to be owned by a corporation. And that corporation needs to be owned by a trust. And that way I don't own anything and I'll never pay taxes. And I'm like, that's all a bunch of lies. That's not real. That's content people make they're not tax accountants. You're going to pay higher taxes most of the time if you do that kind of shenanigans. And B, all that costs money. It costs money with the state. It costs money to have it set up for you. It costs money to keep track of all this stuff. It costs money every year to have an LLC. You got to pay the state. You got to pay this fee. You got to pay that fee. And if you don't file a tax return, you can get fined if you file as a business, So small businesses, make sure you have a viable idea. Make money first. Get through that. Have somebody buying your idea.
I can go ahead and go out and
great.
Start selling my product or service before I get the LLC registered and I meet with my CPA and all that stuff. You're saying go test the idea, get some clients, get some money coming in.
Exactly. See if you have a good idea. See if you're growing. See if, okay, I'm going to start a business being a painter and I'm going to paint houses. Well, I've never painted a house before. If anybody hired me, they certainly wouldn't recommend me to their friends. I would do a terrible job and I probably would fall off the ladder. Make sure that you're selling a good product, that you're the best out there, that you know what you're doing. Being really good at something is great. So I have people that are like, well, I want to sell my art. I want to put it on t-shirts, and they're like, at this point in time, you don't even need to have inventory. I have several people that do that. They just draw the stuff and they put it on a website and people order that shirt on the website and the website makes the shirt when they buy it and then they ship it and you get a commission for your artwork. And that's great unless nobody likes your artwork. So, put it out there before you start all this business structure and all this other stuff. You can deal with that, when
so
you have the money
money
to pay
first.
For it. Make
money first. I like that. What else you got?
My other easy advice, especially for small business owners, is consistency. I have so many people. It's that time of year. We're recording this now in December. You might be listening to this in January. You might be listening to it at another time. But this time of year, everybody's like, oh, I got to go through all my receipts. I have all these bags of stuff. And then it's March and then it's April and that comes and goes. And then it's September or October and you're still adding receipts from last year. And you've lost half of them at this point. Consistency. Consistency is the best thing. Every Sunday, I sit down for 5 or 10 minutes and I go through my receipts, my payments, everything that I need to take care of. And I take 10 minutes. If it takes longer, 10 minutes, what I'll do it next week, or maybe I feel like spending a little more time on it. But I promised myself I'm going to sit down for 10 minutes every Sunday and do something. And most of the time it doesn't take that long because, again, I don't have a lot of transactions. But, I calculate my mileage for the week, which is a lot easier than calculating your mileage for the year, right? Trying to remember, oh, wait, how many times did I go to the post office? Yeah. I know I went on Wednesday, and that's one trip to the post office I can put down, right? You don't forget things, just spend 10 minutes a week, recording your transactions, gathering up your receipts, looking at your stuff. You need to know how much money you're making. If you don't know how much money you're making and how your business is doing until your accountant tells you when you file your taxes in April or September or October, then how do you know you have a successful business? How do you know what you're doing? It's your business. You need to know how you're doing. And the only way you can do that is consistency. Even if it's 5 or 10 minutes once a week, it's better than nothing, and that way you don't have this giant piled work at the end of the year that everybody dreads. And then I have to wind up filing an extension and ruining my summer vacation because I have to come home and do taxes for people that didn't do their taxes in the spring.
So I want to go back to something you said just a minute ago. You said, if you ever finished your book, it would be entitled something, something, something.
Make money first.
Make money first. But you actually have finished a book. It's available. People can buy it on Amazon. What is it?
Oh, that's what I did on my summer vacation. Nope, crossed out. What I did on my business trip. So make your summer vacation a business trip by doing business stuff every day on your summer vacation. And it gives you a lot of pointers and things you need to do, how to make your vacations tax deductible. And it's also a log of, day after day, like how much money you spent, where you ate. You can write right in the book, and it's a workbook. It tells you how to add it up. If you don't feel like adding it up, it's all in there. Just hand the book to your accountant, and it records everything you did on your big trip, how much money you spent, and why your trip is tax deductible. If you ever get audited, guess what? Here's the business stuff I did every day and why the whole trip was tax deductible. It doesn't matter that you worked for 30 minutes and you had fun the rest of the day. If you work for 30 minutes a day doing something on your trip, guess what? It's a tax deductible trip.
So let me put this to the test. I took my family on a cruise for spring break last year. And each day I was on the trip, I'm checking email, I'm sending Slack messages to my team, I'm responding to things. Does that check the box?
No,
not exactly.
Yeah, all the stuff that you said, checking your messages, something like that, you can do that from anywhere. You didn't have to be there. Now, if you went on one of these cruises where you go out on land every day, and I know you do podcasts. I don't know what else you do, employee benefits. I don't, but if you set up a meeting with a podcaster that in Cancun, right, and met with them and talked about stuff and had a meal or coffee or a drink with another podcaster, and then you got back on the boat and the next day you got off in some fancy island. I don't know. I don't cruise. And there you met with a podcaster there, then it would count. You have to do something that you couldn't do from home. All right.
Okay.
Shaking hands.
And I have to do something each day that I'm gone?
Every day. Now, would your family's cruise tickets be deductible? No. Unless your spouse is also a member of your business and your spouse is also doing said businessy things on land where you physically have to be there. Now, could it have been a phone call? Could it have been a Zoom meeting? Of course, but being there in person and shaking hands counts as an ordinary and necessary expense. Meeting people in person to build that trust or to network with people, that always counts. You can make it a trip. So, but you'd actually have to meet with somebody, go somewhere. I mean, it depends on what business you're in. I have a lot of people in restaurants, and they buy ingredients in foreign countries and bring them home in their suitcases and visit their family. Right?
Okay. That's interesting. Now, what about on this cruise if I had taken pictures of myself and my family at some of these exotic locations and then used those on my website.
That's kind of iffy.
Okay.
That's kind of iffy.
I like,
you really need to
black
have
and white. I don't want gray.
a meeting or go to a class or visit a place of business that's similar to your place of business to do, networking or compare your business to theirs, or, it has to be where something you can't do it, and just taking pictures of yourself. No, not the whole
That's
truth.
dicey. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the basis of this book, is how to take
and
your...
it's only 26 page or 24 pages. It's the minimum number
quick,
of pages
easy read, and the worksheets
that I'm
too,
allowed to publish. So so it's super easy. It's mostly a workbook. It's a lot of lists. And if you're going to go on vacation and you're planning it, there's all the planning pages of, this is what I'm going to do every day when I'm on a trip. This is ideas and stuff I could do that would make that day tax deductible. So you have to do business stuff every day.
Great.
That you couldn't do from, an email. Just going somewhere else and checking your emails. You have to have contact with people. You have to go places.
That makes sense. I'm glad I understand the rules there. Okay, so give us another one, Diane. What's another piece of tax efficient advice that you often provide to your clients?
Oh, let me think. Don't believe all the stuff on the internet, for one. And of course, that's weird because I'm on the internet and I'm like, yeah, believe me, but don't believe anybody else. It's just, oh, that sounds like a cult.
What's something that you've seen often repeated on the internet that is not actually true, is bad advice?
Like a lot of the things I see, especially, are like setting up trusts or having one corporation own all your LLCs and having your house in an LLC. I see a lot of...
And why are these bad ideas?
They cost money and they really don't save you anything or make you anything, especially when it's your personal property. And if you associate your personal property with your business and your business fails, you could lose your personal property. So that's always kind of scary. I'm just like, oh, I put my house in my business. I'm going to write off my whole house. Well, first of all, it's based on how you use it. So if you get audited, they're going to see how much space is actually just business. And if you're like living in that house and it's not all office space, then you can't deduct your whole house. You can't deduct personal living expenses. So that's one. What's the other one I was thinking of? Oh, the deducting. Oh, that's the other one was that. They use the Augusta rule and, rent your house to your business for 2 weeks and it's tax-free income. No. You'd actually have to vacate your house and use it for a business purpose for 2 weeks. You'd actually have to, your business would have to use it for 2 weeks and you can't live there too. Can you?
So if I have a bedroom
records, I suppose, but I'm not going to do that for you.
If I have a bedroom in my house that has a desk at it that I work at, can I deduct a portion of my mortgage? Or
well,
the
not
utilities?
Your mortgage payment, because that's between you and the bank. But you can depreciate a portion of your house, and you can deduct a portion of the taxes and your mortgage interest and your utility bills. There's a much easier way to do it rather than doing all that, because that's a lot of math. About 15 years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, they changed it to a flat rate where you just take $5 a square foot up to 300 square feet in your home, and they don't ask any questions at all. If you get audited, you'd have to probably show your work as to how you came up with 300 square feet or send a picture. But it's, pretty simple to deduct, $5 a square foot, so you get a $1,500 deduction for using a portion of your home, and they really don't ask any questions on that.
Interesting. Okay. That's a new one for me. I learned something today. Bonus.
Yeah, but you do have to be working at home. And if you rent an office and you kind of look like you're in an office, it has to be your primary place. Oh, so I can't do
both.
Yeah, it has to be your primary place of work. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I don't get the home office deduction either because even though I work at home a lot, I have an office that people come to. So
what is it about your process that helps take some of that feeling of being overwhelmed away from your clients, overwhelmed by payroll, overwhelmed by bookkeeping, overwhelmed by compliance issues?
Well, I start out every call with, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. And usually once they start, I listen, you know, and sometimes I listen for a long time, and they tell me everything that's going on. I've had a lot of people tell me, I used to have a different office and I had a couch in there, and people would say, you know, I come in and they like sit on the couch. Next thing you know, they're laying back on the couch. They're like, I feel like I'm at the psychiatrist, I was like, well, yeah, I kind of am. I kind of figure out, where your problems are coming from and figure out why you're overwhelmed and kind of simplify it, figure out what we can do, get some actionable steps and make a plan going forward. And I have so many people come to me just for that, just, to figure out, what's a problem, what's not a problem, what they should be scared of if they're not, what they shouldn't be scared of that they are scared of, which is usually exactly the way it is. Everybody's afraid of, oh, they're going to send me to jail. I'm like, no, they're going to take your money. They're not going to send you to jail. Sending you to jail costs them money. They want money. One thing, money. So yeah,
So is
can
there
take your
not
money.
a tax violation that could send people to jail?
Oh, there is. But
Okay.
it has to be pretty egregious, and it has to be outright that you intentionally tried to commit a crime and defraud the United States government or the state government. Um, it has to be pretty egregious. You have to be, running some kind of scam. Or I only ever had one person go to jail. They weren't my client. It was a relative of my client that was kind of financially stuck with them. So I had the relative as, but anyway, it's a long story.
And what did they do? I want to get an idea of what it takes to cross that line.
I can't really reveal a whole lot, but
okay.
They ran there's many kinds of nonprofit organizations. So it wasn't a charity. Things like homeowners associations and private clubs and a lot of other things are charities. And this was something that I didn't mention, a different kind of nonprofit that's not a charity, that is not a for-profit thing. And they were running one of those as they were stealing a lot of money from people, saying they would get certain benefits. They were using the money for things that was not what they said they were using it for. And at the end of the day, there was no money left to pay the taxes that they should have been paying on the money that, was not used properly. So yeah, they were basically running a scam and not a nonprofit. And they got a lot of other people drug into it financially, especially a lot of the relatives. And I really felt bad for the relatives. But he did wind up going to prison. And
do you think it was more the stealing money from people and not using for the correct thing, or more of the not paying taxes?
Well, they caught him because he wasn't paying taxes. He went to jail for not paying taxes based on the fact that he scammed people out of money and used it for personal use. So basically, all the money he was scamming became taxable income to him, and that's how they got him. And that's basically how they got Al Capone, too.
Al Capone, yeah.
That's how they get you, because, I mean, if you're going to steal money from people, that's great, but you have to report it as income. If you don't, and you're living way outside
just to be
your
clear,
lifestyle,
people, I don't think Diane meant that it's actually great if you're going to steal money from people. I think it was just sort of an expression.
Yes, it's not great to steal. No, don't do that. Don't steal money. But if you decide that that's how you want to live your life, if you don't report any income and don't report that you're living this luxurious lifestyle, and you own a lot of real estate that you paid cash for, and you own a lot of vehicles that are registered with the state and have tags on them, and you paid cash for them, or wrote a check or whatever, not necessarily came in with green money. But I mean, if you're not financed and you're buying all this real estate and you're buying all these cars and you're buying all this stuff, the government's eventually going to wonder, why is this person not filing a tax return if he owns 3 Lamborghinis that he has to pay for tags every year? Where is he getting the money? And that's 99% of the time, that's how they bust people, because they're living a lifestyle that's not supported by their tax returns they're filing, or they're just not filing at all. And that's where the criminal charges come in.
Gotcha.
When you're
Let's shift
intentionally
gears,
defrauding
Diane.
the government. People that just forget to pay or forget to file, or they're just scared, they're not going to jail. They just want money.
They're just going to charge you a lot in penalties and interest.
Or, you could have somebody like me to try to get you out of them too. So
okay, there you go. That's
I've
the
done
lesson
that quite
for
a
today.
bit too.
Well, let's shift gears, Diane. I'd like to hear about a big challenge that you've worked through in your life.
In my life?
How you got through it, what you learned. Mm-hmm.
Big challenge in my personal life?
You can go personal,
I've been
you
through
can
a
go
lot
professional.
of challenges. I was, like I said earlier, I wasn't a very entrepreneurial teenager. I didn't care much about anything or do anything. So I kind of lived kind of a carefree lifestyle, and that got me in a lot of trouble. I had to get out of that trouble on my own. And I decided I was going to live a better life when I was about 19 years old. And I tried to do that. So I set my standards a little higher, and I met Prince Charming, and we had a good life together until we grew into very different people. And we went in different directions. We had kids, we had a business, we had, everything was right, except for it just didn't work anymore. And when I went out on my own, I walked away with pretty much nothing, because I didn't want to fight about it. I figured it would just ruin everybody's life if we just spent the next 14 years fighting over the kids. So I pretty much walked away with nothing and had to start over with the shirt on my back. And that was a real challenge. There was other people involved, that, was out to get me for some reason, that I still will never understand. It seems like a lot of our employees and, everybody that, I saw every day, when you live together, you work together, you run a business together, you have children together, it's like you're always together, so we don't have any separate friends or separate, everything was together. And, I lost most of the friends. I just, I decided to play the long game and not throw a temper tantrum and get me, now, and try to just make everybody's life a little bit easier by not fighting and just letting everybody have their way. So it was a challenge. I only got to see my kids on the weekends sometimes. I was there for, everything I could do. And I had kids with special needs that needed therapy and needed stuff and doctor's appointments. And, I still had to take care of all that without, and making sure they had insurance and filling out all the forms and, without really seeing them all that much. It was very challenging. So I had no money and nothing to start with. And I literally started from scratch with nothing. And I hadn't had a job in years. I hadn't finished college because we wound up buying a restaurant. Don't buy a restaurant. It was crazy. It was crazy starting over with nothing at 35 years old. I had zero. And I wound up having to build myself up and set my standards a little higher, but going from, hey, I haven't had a job in years. How am I going to make any money? How am I going to feed myself? And some days it was really difficult. I went back to school. I went to, can I say names of things? Because it's kind of relevant. Yeah. Okay, I went to University of Phoenix. And since I was doing so good, and they were like, okay, you're in one of the top 8 and you could compete for the valedictory speech when you graduate. And I was like, okay. So I wrote a speech about rising from the ashes and being a phoenix. And of course I won and gave the valedictory
Very
speech.
relevant.
And that was, it took me like 10 years to really pull myself up to where I wasn't struggling day to day. To be able to pay the bills and make sure the rent was paid and, not need help with anything.
How did you get through those early days? I mean, it sounds like everything was just sort of stripped away from you at once.
Yeah.
Your
I was
marriage,
angry.
your business, your family, your friends.
Pretty much. Yeah. I had a lot of anger. But I had a punching dummy. I did a lot of knuckle pushups. I got really strong. 'Cause, I exercised every time I got mad, and that was a lot. I it was really challenging. I joined a church that was supportive for the most part, for several years, and they were kind of like the family, the emotional support I needed that kind of helped me out. I really was grateful. I'm still friends with some of them now. Um, uh, it was a really small church. It was, everybody was like family. We had holidays together and had dinner at each other's houses and stuff like that. So it was, that helped a lot, having emotional support, because you really can't go through life alone. A lot of people try to, but you really need to find a place where you can find your people and have people to give you emotional support and have that, "Oh, you said it, girl," something behind you. "Oh, you didn't need him anyway," like,
That human
uh,
support, that human connection is so important.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Through
it,
all aspects of life, but especially when you're going through something that trying.
yeah. Which is,
When you,
again, brings me back to what I do for a living is people come to me when they're scared and need that emotional support. And, I try to be their people, I try to
and
be
when
their
you think
people.
back to that time, how do you feel now? And what's your gut feeling?
My gut feeling, I'm not angry anymore. I guess
You,
I'm
the
kind
anger is
of,
gone now.
yeah. Yeah. Cause we're all still family. I mean, we all have grandkids now and we see each other on holidays and we grandparent together, sort of. I mean, it was very difficult, but I think I feel really like I've really accomplished something, like I really, in my personal life, because I came from, a pretty rough background. I had pretty rough teenage years, and I guess a lot of people didn't expect me to, I don't know, live this long or become anything.
Wow.
And people are always like, "Oh yeah, you're so smart. It's a shame you're from the hood." It's like,
Okay.
so
So what advice would you have for somebody else who's listening right now that's going through an emotionally trying time, like what you just described?
don't give up. Find your people and don't give up. You just get out of bed and do what you got to do every day. And some days it gets really bad and you feel like you don't have anything you're supposed to be doing. You find something. And that was the hardest thing. I had a friend who was like, "Diane, you're always so busy. It's like you don't have time. It's like you're always doing something. You have all these people that need you, and you're always like, well, yeah, because if I don't, you get depressed, man. You got to be busy. You got to volunteer. You got to help people. Look outside yourself, because if all you're doing is looking inside yourself, you just get depressed. You can't. You got to keep going. You got to find a goal and anything, you know,
So
even
you
if it's
got
cleaning up
busy
your
and
house or getting your
you
taxes
found a
paid.
tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah. You found a way to add structure and purpose to each of your days. It sounds like. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, around other people, it's like you have a neighbor that needs help, Um, I mean, literally, like my downstairs neighbor is a Vietnam vet, and he only qualifies for like home nursing like so many days a week, and the other days he needs his bandage changed. I've been doing that for like a year. Um, just because he's my neighbor, it's like, why wouldn't I do it? I mean, like, wouldn't you? Like, you know, giving to others, making life about other people around you is far far better than making it about yourself and how much can I make and how much can I succeed and how much can I get, because I've built this life that I'm so happy with, and most of it is helping others, one way or another.
Do you think you would be where you are and helping so many people in the way that you are if you hadn't gone through that?
No. No. No, this is all born from my own adversity. Yeah, this is all born from I've been there and I know how hard it is. And and I wouldn't have gotten out it if I didn't have, the people that would occasionally reach out and give me a hand for no reason. that I couldn't pay back. Like when I was a teenager, there was, a couple people's moms that were like, you really got to pull your life together, and, like church people that were like, I can help you get your car fixed, and like when I didn't expect it and there's no way I could have paid them back. I've had several people, just help out for no reason, and, you got to pay that back.
I love that. So as you look forward now for Grassroots Taxes, what are you excited about? Where are you going? Growth, new services, new initiatives, new projects?
Well, I should have more content available on my website in the next few weeks. So maybe by the time people are listening, you can see additional content on my website. So you can access my videos and my blogs on any subject just by searching, and you can see all of my content on that. Hopefully that'll be done. I want to make more content this year. I've been actually off being grandma for the past 6 months or so. I really haven't made any new content since July. So my studio's set up, ready to go. I'm going to go do some microphone tests today, and hopefully I will be recording again tomorrow. But we'll see. More content, more speaking engagements. I really want to be out in the public more. If anybody is looking for a good public speaker for starting businesses, this would be me. I can have
Diane
my smiling
Hagerty.
face there.
Yeah.
I love teaching live classes. And people always come up to me after and be like, "This is the funnest class I've ever taken in my life." And I'm like, my head just keeps growing.
So what's your superpower, Diane? How would you characterize that?
That's funny that you ask me that, because people keep buying me Wonder Woman stuff and as gifts, like, oh, here, Wonder Woman for Wonder Woman. I don't know, I have a shelf full of Wonder Woman stuff in my office that people buy me. What is my superpower? Simplifying what the government wants, like understanding, being able to, I read really fast. So being able to read 1,000 pages of legislation and break it down and be like, okay, this is what it is. And be able to convey that to people, or, just the basics of, well, the state says this, but the federal says this, but you got to get a city business license. And then you need insurance, which is a state problem, trying to sift it all out to, this is what you need to do, A, B, C, making people have action plans, what to do next. Or even with if you didn't pay your taxes, this is what you need to do. You need to file your taxes, and then you need to set up a payment plan, and we need to do this, setting an order of things, trying just basically simplifying things that are really confusing.
That's a great superpower and a great service to most people, to be able to take the complicated and make it simple, make it digestible. So I've just got one more question for you today, Diane. But before I ask it, I want to do 3 quick things. First of all, anybody who wants to get in touch with Diane, 2 things, grassrootstaxes.com. And by the time this interview is published, it's going to be a brand new website with some new content on there. It's going to look great. You guys should go check it out. You can also email her directly, Diane, D-I-A-N-E, Diane at grassroottaxes.com. Also, as a reminder for my company, you can be the hero that informs your clients. You can give more employees access to therapists, doctors, and prescription meds that, I know it's hard to believe, actually puts more money into the company's pocket. So you can reach out to us at addbackbenefits.com. And if you can take just a moment, pause for a second, go to your favorite podcast app, leave us a question, a comment, a review. That really helps other people find the podcast. I appreciate that. And so last question for you, Diane. A year from now, what's something big that you hope to be celebrating?
Wow. Okay, I didn't see that question coming. Okay, what do I want to be doing? What do I want to be celebrating in a year?
Yeah, something big. You've got a big goal. Year from now, fist pumping in the air. You're super excited.
I'm actually thinking, personal wise, I'm thinking about buying a house this year, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But let's see. But other than that, just, I'm pretty much a full-time, grandma with a part-time. I have to go to work every day. So no, I work a lot. But I feel like a full-time grandma. So I just celebrate my grandkids. I love playing with them every day and just watching them grow up. They're awesome. They're the light of my life. And I am that grandma, and everybody's like, Diane, you hate everybody. Like, no, grandkids definitely change your life and make you a happier person. I tell you,
they find a
that.
special warm place in
They're
your heart.
definitely the cherry on top of having to put up with teenagers.
Well, Diane Hagerty from Grassroots Taxes, I want to be the first to thank you for sharing both your time and your story with us today. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of the Inspired Stories podcast. Thanks for learning with us today.